It's nearly impossible to tell the story of America without first telling the story of America's first city, Philadelphia. And it's nearly impossible to tell the story of modern Philadelphia without first telling the story of Mother's Day. After all, Mother's Day was founded in Philadelphia on the heels of an early feminist revolt. And it was on a Mother's Day in the mid-1980s that the city was shattered by a single act of violence between two of the city's most prominent black men. You see, back then, there were two sides to Black Philadelphia. One side, in the form of Wilson Goode, the city's first black mayor, a believer in the Martin Luther King ideology of racial harmony through integration. You might say that Wilson Goode became the face of Philadelphia's integration generation.
Get in this struggle at this moment. Recognize
On the other side was John Africa, a man who grew up desperately poor in the slums of North Philadelphia. He was abandoned by both his father and the school system, and his early nutrition was so lacking that he was deemed mentally disabled, unfit for society. Africa later became the leader of the anarchist MOVE organization. And as if to thumb his nose at the very idea of a black middle class in Philadelphia, Africa set up a commune on Osage Avenue in precisely the type of black neighborhood that gave birth to Mayor Goode. And on that Mother's Day on Osage Avenue in West Philadelphia, these two men, Wilson Goode and John Africa, orchestrated a clash of revolutionary ideals that left children dead and black families with no place left to go. But for those of us who grew up in the city, we knew that long before then, the dangerous, messy, unpredictable thing known as revolution had already, once again, given birth in Philadelphia. Questions about the survival of the United States of America used to be considered quaint, even naive. Not anymore. I'm a longtime journalist and filmmaker. The central focus of this film is the series of interviews I conducted among a small group of black families, native Philadelphians, and other people with a connection to the city. Many of these interviews occurred during Memorial Day celebrations. These were friends, family, the people I had grown up with in Philadelphia. Like the complex and difficult history of African Americans, the questions I asked were complex and difficult. The questions I asked had an existential tone to them, about us, our families, about the United States of America, about America's beginnings, about Philadelphia. I wanted to know how growing up in America's first city had affected us, surrounded as we were with its history and stories about the nation's beginnings. What view of the world, what attitude did it create? And did we take that attitude into the world with us when our parents died?
See how skinny I was back in the day?
Because if you think that the Memorial Day celebrations of a small group of African American families in a small corner of Southwest Philadelphia have little or no connection to the larger story of the United States of America, you would be wrong.
Well, I think it's a fascinating question to think about the power of our founding documents. First, the Declaration of Independence, later the Constitution.
Because I was young growing up there, I didn't think it was like super extraordinary, but it was.
When I was there going to these places, I thought that like every place had these. Like, you know, every place, every kid growing up had a place where they went to, where they saw where the country was born. It only really is when you left that you understand that it was kind of unique.
My grandmother Patsy visited Philadelphia as a tourist from her home in the Deep South during a time when tourists were actually permitted and encouraged to touch the iconic Liberty Bell.
The bell that's in the Tower of Independence Hall today, the Centennial Bell, weighs 13,000 pounds. The Liberty Bell, which once hung in the same tower, only weighs 2,000.
And like pilgrims to a holy site, they came from all over the world by the millions to see and touch this bell.
So it's a relatively small bell, but it's large in their minds.
I think growing up in Philadelphia affected me tremendously.